Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Strive Dialogues. This is our sixth episode and we just started. Today we are going to discuss a very burning topic of our country, which is the Manipur incidents. In fact, Manipur is burning, is what the media has been speaking about almost on a daily basis. And to discuss this, we have one of the best experts available in our country. We have Gen Shokin Chauhan joining us. He has, besides having done his usual army stints at all the levels, staff, command, etc., at the highest level. He was also the former DG Assam Rifles and also the former chairman of Seas Fire Monitoring Group, which in fact got him into the center stage of Northeast. So we couldn't have asked for a person better than him to discuss this very burning issue. But before that, let me just put out some important data which is available with me basically from the net, so that things are put into perspective. And I will also put up a map so that whatever General Chauhan then discusses, people can correlate to it that much better. Hitting straight to our information. So this is basically a picture depicting what is happening in Manipur. Fire, arson, looting, houses being destroyed, and this is another interesting fact. Lieutenant General Nishikant, who's from Manipur itself, and he's settled in Manipur. He was from the Int Corps, incidentally. So he has tweeted yesterday on 30th of May, which has gone viral. And he has tweeted that about 300 terrorists, including lungi clad ones from Myanmar, have entered into India, Manipur, brackets, and creating mayhem. Burnt 450 houses. This figure has gone to about 1700 in Seru and Sungu villages in South Manipur. 80 years old burnt to death as well. Security forces appear to be bewildered by the ferocity of the attacks and arson and looting which is happening. So this will put into perspective the level of the problem which the security forces are facing. So therefore, uh, I have now put up the map, which, if the general wants to refer to while discussing, I'll keep it on. Otherwise, broadly speaking, Manipur comprises of about 53% Meiteis, of which about 8% are Muslims, and rest of them are Hindus. Cookies and Nagas combined together make about 40%, and others, which have the other tribal people in Manipur, are around 7%. The estimated casualties and displacements till now are about 60 killed, 231 injured, 1,700 houses burnt, 40,000 people were stranded. Number of them have been moved to safety camps. Number of them have been evacuated outside of Manipur. Unknown numbers have also fled to neighboring states. The location of the violence basically started from Chudachandpur, and then it has spread into the valley. Essentially, it is valley and around hills around the valley is a broad description of what all is happening in where all these violence is happening. So with that, we come straight away to today's question answers session. We will be yielding the floor to Jal Chauhan. Sir, it's quite bewildering, with so much of normalcy and peace having returned. It was almost looking like that the Northeast is fully now part of the bigger India, the larger India. Suddenly, from 3rd of May, things have gone haywire. What do you think has been the reason for this? Could you dilate on that, sir?
Good evening, Dushan. Lovely to see you all again. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
It's actually very difficult talking about the Northeast, mainly because I said, as you said just now, things seem to be really improving.
That's right.
And why has this happened the way it has happened? Let's try and make some sense about it. Uh, what were the triggers? So let's first discuss the triggers. The trigger, Doshi, the first issue was, of course, the judgment of the single judge bench of the Imphal High Court, the Chief Justice, in fact, who said that the Meiteis community could be considered for scheduled tribe uh,
Yeah.
for a scheduled tribe status.
Status.
That's the that seems to be the first trigger. Now, with
Right.
this trigger, a couple of things happened. That the All Tribal Students Union decided that they would oppose this particular thing because
Hmm.
to them, an All Tribal Students Union is actually, a students' union that is dominated by the Kuki tribe. So, primarily the Kukis felt that if the Meiteis were to get scheduled tribe status, then the cake which was theirs to take in some ways would get reduced with the Meitei community also being added there.
Okay.
That seems to be one of the triggers. The second trigger is that over the last couple of years, there have been small indicators that these two communities, the Meitei
Hmm.
community settled largely in the Imphal Valley, and the Kuki community settled in a couple of districts neighboring the Imphal Valley and Myanmar. For example, Churachandpur.
Yeah.
Churachandpur is a district dominated by the Kukis and a couple of other Naga tribes. Now, I will just trace one or two incidents. On the 23rd, 24th of April,
Hmm.
the Chief Minister Biren was to go to Churachandpur to inaugurate an open gym. But
Okay.
before he reached, the All Tribal Students Union set fire to the gym and Biren could not go.
Okay.
But on 3rd, 4th of May, now that's the issue. Who started the firing? Who started attacking one village? Whose village first? And how did it retaliate? Now, depending on which side of the community you are, there blame on both sides. People talk of time dated videos. People talk of videos that were going out. That people talk of all situations where, if you're a Maiti, you would say the Kukis attacked first, and if you're a
Yeah.
Kuki, you say the Maitis attacked first. But the issue is, Dushi, there are three things here. One is that we have six Kuki insurgent groups that were in suspension of operations with us,
That's right. That's right.
whose weapons were all locked up by us in the camps. And these
Supposedly.
camps, yeah, I
Supposedly.
would say they are to a
Okay.
very great extent they are.
Okay.
And recently, as recent as about a week back, they carried out a check of four of these camps and found
Hmm.
all the weapons intact.
Oh.
In two of these camps, there was uh, there was looting of these weapons by
Hmm.
another Kuki group, which was not in soup.
Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe they looted 20, 30, 40 weapons.
Could it have been with connivance?
It's it could be, but at the same time, it need not be. These
Okay.
two groups have actually been in suspension of operations with us over the last 6 years, 6 to 8 years now, and to me have largely been defined.
Okay.
So for them to lose this convenience of getting a stipend in the camp to now restarting an insurgency seems a little far-fetched because none of these insurgents, because as you said, I was the chairman of the ceasefire monitoring group. It
Yeah.
was my job to meet the NSCN cadres of all the four NSCN groups that were in ceasefire with the government of India. I didn't find any one of them in need to wanting to take up operations again.
Mm-hmm.
They, I felt that they were quite happy, and they would have been happy with a little more stipend. But similarly with the Kuki groups.
Okay.
But the issue is that just as these weapons were taken by the Kuki groups from their Sioux camps, around 1,000 weapons have also been looted by the Meiteis from the Manipur rifles and
Army.
the Manipur police.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's
So that
bewildering.
means both sides are extremely well armed, and I would say this violence it has been pre-planned.
So do you think there has been a politicization of the armed security forces here?
Uh, by security forces, if you mean the Manipur police
I'm talking of the
and
state.
the Manipur rifles, which are
Absolutely.
run, yeah, which is run by the state administration, they've always
Yeah.
been politicized.
Okay.
They've never had the capability to have any kind of sustainability or survivability against any insurance group, any insurgency group.
Okay.
So I don't think that we need it. It requires any great this thing to know that these the state police and the Manipur rifles have always been politicized.
Okay.
There are two more things I wanted to bring to your notice, or to the notice of the to the for the information of the viewers,
Yeah.
is that over the last 3 years since the coup in Myanmar has taken place,
Mm-hmm. That's right.
the Myanmar army have been fighting a large number of insurgent groups as well as their democratic movement,
Mhm.
and they are being helped in various places by a number of mighty groups, armed groups operating inside Myanmar.
Oh, that's a news. That's a news.
And
I thought
they
it was
are
the other around.
fighting a number of Kuki insurgent groups.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's
So
a
the
revelation.
Myanmar army is fighting the Kuki insurgent groups. Some of these Kukis, and there have been a large number of refugees who've gone and settled down in Mizoram. Very, very few from the Manipur border, a lot from the Mizoram border, because the
Yeah.
Mizos are Chins, trace
Mm-hmm.
their ancestry to the Chins, and these are Chin refugees.
Okay.
So this is something we need to keep in mind, that there is a correlation between the refugees entering Mizoram, a correlation between the Chin refugees and the Kuki armed groups that are fighting the Myanmar army. And inside Myanmar itself, there is a problem between the Meiteis and the Kuki groups inside Myanmar, who are also armed and who are fighting the Myanmar army, stroke helping the Myanmar army.
Okay.
So, as far as weapons are concerned, I don't think there's a lack of weapons anywhere.
Mhm. I believe people have used snipers also.
You are aware, Dushan, that there is a small town in the Yunnan province of Myanmar, bordering, rather China, bordering Myanmar, called Ruli,
Okay. Yeah.
which is a grey market area where a
Yeah.
large
That.
number of Chinese weapons are available for sale for the highest bidders.
That's right.
So all the money that these insurgent groups make from their extortion, stroke, illegal narcotics trade, whatever the other trades that they do, they go and buy weapons from ruling. And there is absolutely no problem as far as getting weapons is concerned and then bringing it here. So there's a proliferation of weapons from the Kuki groups. There's a proliferation of weapons from the Meitei groups. There is anyway an ongoing battle in Myanmar between the Meitei and the Kuki groups.
Hmm.
And this seems to have transferred itself into the valley. Now, the Chief Minister Biren has been in power for the last two continuous terms. Uh, there might be resistance to his political to his political power. After all, 8 of the Kuki MLAs who wrote to the Home Minister belong to the BJP.
Okay. Okay.
So 8 MLAs of the Kukis who were elected MLAs of Manipur Assembly wrote to the
Mhm.
Home Minister that we no longer have confidence in the Chief Minister Biren, and Manipur may be considered the Kugis may be considered for an independent homeland.
Yeah, that cookie land
So this
demand
Kuki
came there.
land, or call it whatever, call it in state administrative, call it whatever the issues are, that
Yeah,
these have been the rumblings over the last couple of months. There is a mighty group called Mighty Lipun,
mhm.
which is also considered to be an extremist group. Maybe, maybe having some ideas to prevent this kind of divide in Manipur. Maybe wanting to take uh, power in their own hands. But the main thing, Tushant, is that what has happened on 3rd, 4th of May and has continued, this violence has continued throughout this month, has its background, as I've explained to you, over the last 1 to 2 years when this rumbling has been going on.
So the situation was simmering in, sir, but you mean to
Correct.
say that state government chose to overlook it, or it was caught unaware, or
Dushant, it
it
is
didn't
it is
anticipate
difficult.
something like this?
It is difficult for a soldier living a retired life in Pune, dependent upon information, which is dependent upon the tribe you're from,
Okay.
to really come to a point at which we get an independent idea. And I think only a judicial inquiry, an independent judicial inquiry, will be able to tell you exactly what happened, who
Okay.
started it first, despite all the, the time dated videos that are floating around, despite all the other noise that is there. My idea is to just cut this clutter, to
Mm-hmm.
bring it to your notice that this
Mm-hmm.
is not an inter-religious problem,
Okay.
it is an inter-community problem.
Mm-hmm.
It has been brewing for some time
Okay.
and probably has at its background the control of the poppy culture, of the poppy cultivation in Manipur and in Myanmar. Also, an
Mm-hmm.
ongoing battle between the Kuki insurgent groups and the mighty insurgent group inside Myanmar.
I just want to intervene here for a. This doubt has been coming up in my mind. There are three players in Manipur, three big players, I would say. Nagas are also equally a very important community as far as Manipur's ethnic conundrum is concerned. How are the Nagas looking at it? Initially, if you go back few years back, it was Nagas and Kukis who were fighting amongst themselves. But now it seems that the Nagas have taken a backseat, or they have joined the Kukis in fighting Mighty. Just to clarify to our people, is it that Nagas are on board with Kukis, or they are keeping a neutral stance?
Uh, when in 1988, I was a young company commander in Ukhrul. At that time, as a post commander, I was tasked to protect the Kuki villages
Hmm.
in Ukhrul because the Tangkhul Nagas had got
Yeah,
after the Kukis and were
correct.
burning the Kuki villages out
Yeah.
because they felt that Kukis were usurpers in that land. And to prevent the Kuki being burnt out, these Kuki insurgent groups started developing.
Oh.
So the Kuki insurgent groups came out of the need to protect the Kukis from the other Nagas.
Hmm.
So that's the first thing. You're absolutely right that there was a problem between the Tangkhuls and the Kukis in Ukhrul, based on the fact that the Kukis had entered from Myanmar and created small villages inside Ukhrul district, which also borders Myanmar.
Yeah.
In this case, there is absolutely no evidence of any other Naga community, Naga tribe getting
Hmm.
involved.
Okay.
Absolutely none. So anybody who says it's a Christian Hindu issue, it's absolutely wrong.
Okay. Okay.
It's a political issue It's a community issue which has blown up because personally I feel as a soldier that the leaders, whether they are political or security, did not see the signs of a problem.
Or they were biased, whatever way you want to look
It
at it.
depends on who you ask.
Yeah,
It is that. Now I am
that's
personally very I'm aware how good these communities are. I'm aware that Manipur and the Meitei community contributes a great deal of sportsmen and sportswomen to the
yeah. I
Indian
mean, that
teams.
was,
The
it
great
was
Mary
becoming
Kom,
it was
the
becoming a
hockey
sports
team,
hub.
absolutely. The boxing teams, the
Yeah,
weightlifting teams are all from Manipur. They are wonderful
and
people.
and besides that, the other teams of India are going to Manipur to practice and train. So that was
Absolutely, absolutely.
something very
When I was
wonderful
the
was
chairman,
happening
yeah,
there.
and when I was the chairman of the ceasefire monitoring group, I was asked to attend a Manipur Myanmar meeting,
Oh,
wherein we had people who came in from the Sagaing province and from
okay.
Myanmar, and who came into Imphal, where we met them for over 3 days to discuss not just trade, but to discuss hospital facilities, to discuss how they can be taken for education, and that Manipur would develop as an educational hub and a medical hub to help treat the neighboring Myanmar residents who find it difficult to go to Rangoon to get the same kind of help. There were also talks of the Myanmar people coming across and taking an internal flight from Imphal to Gaya, which is their pilgrimage.
Hmm.
So, all in all, there was a great deal of happiness quotient coming. The roads were being built, the train was coming in,
That's true. That's true.
stations had been made, and everyone was talking of a new Northeast.
Yeah,
And
I'm
suddenly,
amazed.
out of the blue, you had a situation where uh, this blew up. I'm
Absolutely.
also, I'm also an advisor to one or two NGOs there, General Dusyan, and I was
Okay.
just speaking to them, and
Mm-hmm.
we have helped people from both communities in Churachandpur, in Imphal, to get away from the mob violence, because once it becomes a mob, it becomes difficult to control a mob.
Very, yeah, you're right. Very difficult to control, in fact.
And I was just speaking to one of the, mighty activists, part of the NGO, and she was
Hmm.
telling me that, General, depending upon who you ask, all I can say is that you won't get the truth here. There were cookie nurses hiding in a hospital in Imphal who were rescued by the Assam Rifles. Similarly, there were mighty nurses hiding in Churachandpur in a hospital who also were rescued by the Assam Rifles.
Okay.
So the problem arises from depending upon who you ask. But I would also
Okay.
like to take this opportunity through your channel to appeal for peace. And my issue is that you these communities are so talented. They are such they have such great capability that they don't need to get into this violence to actually form an ability to compete at the highest level in India.
I think so. A related question, sir. Now that the situation has been put into perspective by you, what do you have to say about this particular development, which yesterday Nishikant had posted, General Nishikant had posted, and he being from the Int Corps, I suppose he must be still actively involved in the in getting information from across and even within the state. What do you have to say on this? Just a because this is really becoming viral now on the Twitter.
I can imagine, General Dushyant, I've known General Nishikant for a long time, but I'm not sure because I have not asked the Assam Rifles or the Indian Army to confirm this.
Hmm.
Uh, Sitting in Pune, we just cannot comment on something that's happened yesterday. But sometimes I feel that, uh, throwing oil in burning waters is not the right way to bring peace.
Yeah. So I suppose
Maybe, maybe my advice to General Nishikant would be to try and get peace and get both the communities rather than making something like this viral.
so so
He's
so
been a general. He could
yeah.
have well easily gone to the army and said, "Look, here are the people that have come. Let's go and stop it. We've been in more difficult situations before."
Yes, yes. So I suppose the immediate need now is to calm the situation. Put
Exactly. The need is for us to bring down
yeah.
the, and the need is that we in the army have a role to play as a as people who can help both communities.
Hmm.
Both
Yeah,
communities
absolutely.
trust us.
I think
We have a
I think you
huge fund of goodwill
you
that
need
must be
the
used to protect both communities
absolutely you
and
need the
not
bridge
talk of
makers.
one community. Yeah,
We need to have the bridge makers coming in and kicking in as far as this.
absolutely, absolutely, General Dushan. And that has been the reason why I was successful as the chairman in this, of the ceasefire monitoring group in speaking to the leaderships of the NSCN, mainly because I said, though I am from the government of India and I represent the government of India, I am also here to make sure that you are not wronged.
Absolutely. Coming to the next question, because we are going to keep it to about 30-35 minutes. Uh, there is also a talk going around. I have been listening to various channels. I'm not talking of the TV channels also, but I am also talking of the social media channels, where people are expressing some external hand in inflaming this. While we agree that the fault lines were there and these differences were there for the last 1.5 years, but I think there is some external hand, as per these reports, in inflaming and making the situation so bad as it is today.
Well, I just take two examples.
Hmm.
In 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 Imphal itself, there are lots of people, lots of social media about saying it's a Christian majority versus Hindu minority problem.
Yeah, that I read.
That in itself is the most dangerous narrative to go out.
Yeah.
In a social media post which you read in the European world, the narrative is shifted on its head, and people say that it's the Christian minority being
Which
targeted by the Hindu majority.
majority.
So
That's
this
right.
external hand and these internal problems only shows how fragile our inter-community capabilities are.
Yeah.
If
So
we
so
are so fragile that we allow somebody else's narrative to come to us and start killing each other, is something that we need to strengthen. Then we don't have the political ability to bind ourselves. And I'm not
so
willing to buy this, Dushan.
okay.
I feel that there was a grave misunderstanding of the rumblings that were going on,
Hmm.
and people didn't bother about the weapons being looted. And
Yes.
today, instead of throwing oil on burning waters, we need to throw, we need to put blankets, and we
we
need to bring peace.
we need
And
to
the
douse
only
it.
way you can, if you're considered a friend of both the communities.
So we need to douse it, and that's my next question. How do we find a solution to this problem now? Of course, the first priority remains to get some calm
Get to
into Manipur.
absolutely, absolutely.
How do you find a lasting solution, to this? And this has been very common in the Northeast. So it would be more also for Manipur as well as the other places where I'm sure similar things are cooking up.
So I can give you the example of Nagaland. Nagaland has 99.99% scheduled tribes. All
Yes,
tribes of Nagaland, the entire population, are scheduled tribes.
that's right.
But in the state of Nagaland, for the state service, state governmental service, the reservation is limited to the 8 tribes which are worse off than the other 8 tribes. So maybe giving somebody scheduled caste or scheduled tribe status is not a problem. We need
Hmm.
to be able to see whether we are better off than a community which is worse off. And unless we get an end to this violence, and unless we then sit down with each other and try and sort this out, we will never have peace. But my
So
prayer again is, please consider the fact that you need to end violence before, and as military officers, we have to be absolutely you know, clear that violence has to stop, and violence from both sides has to stop.
there's no doubt absolutely that the Indian military as such, at least, has always been a very neutral agency while dealing with such situations. And I'm sure the people who are in the service now, of course, we have left our uniforms a long time back,
Yes, we,
but
we've done our
but
job, Dujan.
yeah, but I'm sure they have all been groomed by people like you. I'm sure they would be thinking on a similar lines what you are saying. So we will take some questions from the audience. There is a question which is basically, it's a kind of a straightforward question. Will army succeed to check the current group clashes turning into militancy, having support from inside and across? This is by Colonel RP Singh, who has asked this particular question.
Kalarpi, I will just relate to you what the CDS has said today. In fact, he said this yesterday, that the present violence in Manipur is not anything to deal with insurgency. It is an inter-community issue. So it is nothing to do with insurgency. If armed 300 armed insurgents have come in and attacked from Myanmar, then we need the Assam Rifles needs to get their act together to prevent this infiltration. So
Absolutely.
300 is a very large number, General Dushyant, and I'm not willing to buy that Assam Rifles could have allowed this kind of numbers to come inside. I'm not willing to accept that because we have posts all along the border and we have full control over that, and we have troops on the border.
In fact, I read in some of the articles which have come in the newspaper, people raising questions on the role of Assam Rifle, saying that even the Assam Rifle possibly failed to recognize the upcoming problems and did not take anticipatory actions. How much is true as far as this particular statement is concerned?
Dushyant, the job of the Assam Rifles is twofold. One
Yeah,
is to protect the border,
that's
manage the
right.
Indo Myanmar border, which is supposed to
Absolutely.
be a stable border.
Yeah.
So you were basically deployed to check smuggling. And second is, of the 20 odd battalions you're using for counterinsurgency, you're using for counterinsurgency to counter insurgents from trying to create mayhem in the state. Assam Rifles charter did not extend to inter-community clashes, and it is not for the Assam Rifles to even know this what is going to happen, because this is what the political authority is there for. And they have their Manipur police, they have their Manipur rifles, they have their intelligence agencies, they have huge budgets. Assam Rifles not chartered to do intercommunity problems, to deal with intercommunity problems.
Okay.
That is why I am very skeptical that 300 people could not have entered from there. The Assam Rifles would never have allowed them because they are in charge of managing the Indo-Myanmar border.
Okay. I think you are right. So, sir, we'll be concluding our discussions here. Basically, the message which we need to float as per you and also as per common sense is that the time now is to build bridges. Time now is to find people who can bridge the gap between the three major communities which are floating around. Shun the religious narrative which is being uh, put out by vested interest people. Uh, More of local voices have to be given prominence in the social media, who are on the ground and who are kind of neutral to actually present the right picture. The media today appears to be in a wishy-washy manner, trying to put blame on somebody or the other, Assam Rifles and what have you, Manipur, Meiteis, or the Cookies, or nobody has, thank God, till now come up in a big way as far as the Nagas are concerned. Their involvement has not been highlighted. So possibly, I think the Nagas are taking the best course of remaining neutral in this entire
I would say
episode.
the other tribal communities of Manipur have taken the best course.
Everybody else has, I think, dissociated themselves from this
Absolutely, absolutely.
particular development. So we wish that the home minister's visit to Manipur, which is undergoing, will bring in that desired calm which is required. I believe he's meeting all the groups. He's meeting the representatives of various groups who are involved in the conflict. Before I end, a comment which I would like to share from one of our viewers is: the ethnic fault lines are a powder keg. The issue is political and needs political resolution. I think he has hit
Absolutely.
the nail. He has hit the nail on the head,
Absolutely.
and we must thank Salman for this. Very nice comments to end our discussion of Stripe Dialogues. Thank you very much, sir. It was lovely talking to you, and
Thank you, Dushi.
hope to interact with you in future also on your various other specialization. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, General Dushyant. Thank you for
Thank
calling me.
you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.